Hello, beautiful people. This is Sunday sermon number 31 on the Truth Telling with Elizabeth D'Alto podcast. And if you're new to the show or this is your first Sunday sermon, these are shorter solo episodes, just 10 to 20 minutes that go a bit deeper and can be a little more esoteric than our regular interviews. During Sunday sermons, I do things like oracle readings or share my favorite prayers, poems, and excerpts from what I'm reading or studying right now. And these are like wild and untamed gospel, heart ponderings, and delicious morsels of wisdom filled with creative and inspiring ideas, thoughts, and ruminations to spark the truth, power, wisdom, and love that lives within you. All belief systems are welcome here on the show. My truth, ponderings, experiences, and curiosities are simply that, my own. So no matter what your faith is, may you get exactly what you need from listening to this. And may you remember always that everything you've ever needed has always been inside of you. You are made from love, you are love, and you are loved. I love saying that. All right, I have some big news, everybody. I'm just going to get right into it. This is going to be the last Sunday sermon for an indefinite period of time, which for those of you who've been listening for a while, or any of you that are in Wild Soul Movement, you know that I live my life by divine guidance. I tap into my intuition. I listen to my body. I follow the signs. And so when I say for an indefinite period of time, maybe it'll only be 2 weeks. Maybe it'll be 3 months. I don't know. And there's also a potential, a little seedling for actually a second podcast to be born, strictly in the realm of all things Wild Soul, which would mean that these sermons would come back, but maybe in a different way, maybe as their own show. I'm in the exploration of all of this. And so to wrap up Sunday sermons as we know them for now, I pulled a Wild Soul Oracle card. And we can just go ahead and file this under hashtag you can't make this shit up, because the card that I got was number 21, there is no rush. The journey is the gift. I honor it in its entirety. And not only is that so relevant to my own life right now, and maybe to some of you listening as well, but to this decision, to this choice. One of the big things that's been a huge theme in my 2018 so far has been really evaluating choices that I've made in my past. As a lot of you know, I went through some really deep healing after a major relationship in my life ended at the end of 2016. And one of the things during that healing that I had to take responsibility for and unpack and heal and reprogram in myself was codependency. And codependency didn't just exist in my relationships, it existed in my business in really interesting, very subtle ways that I obviously couldn't have seen until I had a deeper understanding of how codependency shows up in all the various areas of our life. So I've essentially been deconstructing and reconstructing everything in the business for the last several months, as well as reorienting myself around who I am, how I want to show up, what I'm sharing with the world, and why. I think I talked about this a lot on last week's Sunday sermon, so I don't really need to get into that. But the thing that is guiding me more than anything right now is to slow down and take space. And I'm going to be really transparent with you, ways that this has shown up. Just in the last week, I fired 4 different people that were working for me. And part of it had to do with communication on both ends. But on my end, anytime anyone doesn't enjoy working with me or it's like hard to work with me on my team, it's because I am disorganized. And I am only ever disorganized because I'm rushing. And there's just no effing rush. So it's amazing that this is the card that I pulled today. There is no rush. Even the people on my team right now, who are my ride or dies, amazing. They know who they are. This has been everything lately. Like I'm working on elizabethdialto.com. We wanted to launch it by the end of March. And this week I was like, you know what? I don't care if we don't launch this thing until like May. Let's take our time. There's just, again, no rush. Like I've literally been saying the words, there is no rush, so much in the last few weeks. So again, pretty amazing that this is the card I pulled. So let me read you the message from the Oracle deck. And if you're not familiar with the Wild Soul Oracle deck, you can go to wildsoulmovement.com/oracle. And it's a 44 card deck with beautiful images of flowers. And every card has a message a mantra. And then in the booklet, there's a message that's about like remembering, because my perspective is that, we're infinite, deeply wise beings. Like our soul, our higher self knows all these things that we read in books, that you hear on podcasts or whatever. Like, it's just, we're remembering. We're just being reminded of like the infinite wisdom that we all have access to. There's a reflection, because I don't see the point in doing any of this work if we're not going to take the time to reflect and integrate what we're learning. And then there's a ritual. So I'm not going to get into the ritual, but I am going to get into the remembering and the reflection. So let me read you the remembering first. Life always moves at whatever pace it needs to. If you have tried to employ methods to speed your healing, transformation, development, relationships, advancement, prosperity, or anything else and failed, you were missing a key ingredient: respect for the journey. This is how you align with your wild soul, who knows what's best and wants what's best for you, instead of constantly raging against her and making her job more difficult. And then here are the reflection questions. How have you interfered with life's natural unfolding in the past, and what were the consequences? The reason for that question is, when we can connect to the consequences of the thing, we can actually connect with the deep pain, and we'll be less likely to do it again. This is why it's important to not just be in like the love and light brigade. There are consequences. We live in a real world where there's cause and effect, and we don't have to be negative about it, but we could be honest. We can call a thing, and we could acknowledge what really happened so we could do better, and we don't have to continuously repeat the same lessons over and over again, unless we need to. And then the next question is, consider how things you've tried to force or manipulate went, in contrast with things you've not been so attached to and allowed to unfold as they would. So coming up in a week or two, I have an amazing interview with a woman named Nagam. And I met Nagam when I was speaking at an event here in Los Angeles a couple weeks ago at the time I'm recording this. And she wrote this play and had it performed. She adapted it from a book. And her story to me was so amazing and so creative. Like, she's a research analyst, but she went ahead and like wrote and produced this whole play, and it was extremely successful. It was far beyond anything of her imagining. And part of the reason for that is because it was just kind of a dream. She just wanted to do it because she was inspired. She didn't have any attachments. She didn't have any goals. She wasn't like, I want to sell out opening night. There was none of that. It was just, she wanted to create her art. And so there's something really special about not being super attached to things, to the outcomes of things or to the results of things. And, it's interesting because it's important to have goals. It's important to have vision. But that's another thing that I'm constantly reorienting around. And it's funny because if any of you have read my book or probably heard me talk about this on the podcast before, you might know that part of my story is in 2013, I had this pivotal moment on El Matador Beach here in Malibu. And I live in Malibu now, which is amazing, only not even 5 years later. And what I realized during that beach walk, when I was really checking in with myself and guides and all those things, was that I didn't know exactly. I didn't have a goal of like, I want to have this many followers and make this much money, and this is what I want to do with my business at that point. I was in a really big transition coming out of fitness and feeling my soul, my heart, like really pulled more in the direction of what I do now, but I didn't know how to name it yet. I didn't know what to call it. And, 2 weeks after that experience is when I had the idea for Wild Soul Movement on an airplane from LA to New York. And so, it's just really fascinating. And so again, I'm finding myself in this place. We have all these transitions, and Wild Soul Movement is really asking me to reinvent her. Like, she as a creative idea, as a creative being, as a program, as a movement practice, she wants a facelift. And so that is something I'm really exploring right now, as well as we have this new incredible body of work around trust that begins with the trust assessment, which if you want to check that out, that's at thetrustassessment.com. Another thing I'm doing this year is building out my keynote speaking, because having my business online is an incredible thing and an amazing blessing. It's like unbelievable to me that I can connect with people all over the world. I ran a workshop the other day and there was someone from Colombia and someone from Portland. That is freaking cool to me. So, as much of a miracle as the internet and that connectivity is, I cannot be behind my computer all the time. I must be in rooms with people. I want to be able to see you and hug you and see your emotion in response to what I'm saying or not or whatever. And so I'm really reorienting the structure of the business and how we do things so that I can be more with people. You know, I'm a natural extrovert. I'm super introverted as well. They call that ambivert, I guess, which technically everyone is an ambivert. We all have our introverted and extroverted qualities. But yeah, so it's a really juicy time. This is a ripe time. At the day I'm recording this, it's 2 days after the spring equinox, and I feel like I'm blooming. I feel like things have been germinating in the dark below the soil, and they're just starting to peek out, but they're not in full bloom yet. And so to honor that and allow this process to really be beautiful and unfold, as well as for my own self to practice patience in a way that I've never practiced patience before, we're going to take a break from the Sunday sermons. So I know a lot of you love these. I know you look forward to these as rituals. And here's the deal. I am always going to be reminding you that I am not your guru and you don't need me. I might create things that you enjoy, that bring you life, that inspire you, but you can only be inspired. You can only feel that joy because it already exists inside of you. So I know it might be a little disappointing for now, and this really is a for now. For sure, we will bring something back, whether it's on this podcast or on a separate podcast of its own. This will come back in some way, but to honor the creative process, to honor what Wild Soul Movement is calling for, and the callings of my own soul, we'll take this break, and who knows what's available for you during this break to have one less external source to maybe give you the impetus you needed to go inward and to rely on yourself, because you are so powerful, you're so wise, you're so amazing, you know so much more than you think you know. You also know so much less than you think you know. That's another one of my constant lessons. So that's it, y'all. I love you so much. I don't even need to know who you are or where you are right now that you're listening to this. The fact that you're here, we're connected. We're on this journey. Shit is real. And we're doing it. So thank you again so much. Follow me on Instagram. That is really the primary social media place where I'm going to be. I can't stand Facebook. It's just not my jam right now. So follow me on Instagram. I make stories, I post things, and it's a lot of fun. So let's stay connected over there in the meantime. I appreciate you all so much, and we'll talk to you later.